topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Philadelphia. Welcome to another Ask the Experts show where we bring you the top experts for the last 16 years in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Hey, this morning we got a great health show. We're going to be talking with the owner of Philly Wellness Center, one of our long-time experts. We're talking about functional medicine. And we always have a different topic every month with Katie. But this week, we're going to actually talk about her practice. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to see you. You know, we always have a certain area of your practice that we talk about, but I want to talk about the whole practice. And I have got so many questions that you can describe to us and our listeners. But first, tell us about Philly Wellness Center.
Philly Wellness Center is something that I created basically for myself, because I was hitting menopause and the weight gain and, the brain fog and the energy slumps and the skin sagging and all that kind of good stuff. So, all the amazing things that happen once you hit 50. But, and then kind of doing a deep dive into why these things are happening and what exists out there that can help, that it can slow the process down, reverse the process even. So it's taken me into, some areas that have been, really exciting. And I've gone down that path of functional medicine, regenerative aesthetics, and I have found just amazing things, and it's helped me amazingly too. And I don't know, but if you can see on my face is red right now, but we were doing some regenerative aesthetics and nitrogen plasma, working with that, just yesterday. So really exciting and novel technologies and stuff out there. So.
I thought the sun came out in Philadelphia. you're out there tanning your face away.
Exactly.
So, a lot of people, when they hear wellness center, they go, well, that's just a spa. But you are so much more than just a spa.
Yeah, no, we do have some pretty sick patients. We go from anywhere from people that who are really sick. I've had some significant brain injury patients, stroke patients, those types of things, up to, we have people that come in for some body contouring. But one of the things that I really look at, whether you're coming in for body contouring or because you had a stroke, is what's going on at the cellular level that's causing the issues that are happening. So I take a real look at membranes and mitochondria and how those cells are communicating, because that's the essence of everything. Ultimately, if you take all disease, it comes back to membranes and mitochondria and basically your messengers, which are hormones. So those three things are all at the cellular level, and they're responsible for everything from degenerative processes, whether it's, back pain or skin laxity. It's all the same thing in a different location.
Well, there's a word that's thrown around, Katie, that most people don't even know what it means. I'm going to start off the show with peptides. What are peptides?
Yeah, I mean, peptides are great. They're amino acids. And amino acids, if you build 50 amino acids or more, you get a protein, right? So most people are familiar with proteins, but the smaller building blocks of amino acids are peptides. And you know of lots of peptides, right? Insulin is actually a hormone peptide, right? But it's one of the original peptides. All the GLPs are peptides. But there's thousands of peptides that we know about. There might be thousands and maybe millions more that we don't know about. But the ones that we do know about have been really, really helpful for a variety of different things. So such as BPC. I must use BPC every day. So it's a healing peptide. It's actually a gastric peptide that the body makes. We've known about it since the 70s, right? They isolated it back in 1971 or something, and we've been using it ever since. But there's this real disconnect between biochemistry and clinical medicine. So it takes 20 to 25 years to go from bench science to actual integration into clinical science, into clinical medicine, which is crazy. I mean, that's somebody's entire career, what you learned in med school, and 25 years later, it's now finally making it in. And that's just not acceptable anymore, right? Because the advances in science have taken leaps and bounds. But, peptides are one of those things that kind of suffered from that, right? So there's all kinds of different peptides. So another one we use a lot is KPV, which is an amino acid. It's 3 different amino acids that are linked together, and that's used for inflammation. So it's potently anti-inflammatory. I actually use that a lot with weight loss. So because there's a lot of inflammation, like chronic inflammation, and adipose tissue gets chronically inflamed. So we use semaglutide, but we also add the KPV. There's another peptide called tesamorelin that was studied in diabetic patients, and diabetic patients have a lot of visceral fat, which is fat around the organs, and tesamorelin really attacks that visceral fat. So they've been using that for decades in some diabetic patients with tremendous results. So, I mean, this is just, there's this craze with peptides all of a sudden, and they think it's new, but they're not new. They've been around for 50 years that we've been using these peptides to various degrees. It's just, now you hear about peptides on shows like this or Joe Rogan, and people are interested in what they are and how they can help. And there's literally thousands. I'll have somebody come in and they're like, "Oh, I want peptides." I'm like, okay, like 2,000 peptides to choose from.
Right.
What exactly do we need here?
Exactly. It's funny. We just got a text in from Barbara, and she said, I love watching your show. I really trust you. What do you think is the best injection, weight loss? I think you call them skinny injections.
Yeah, so the peptides that I love the most are the GLPs. So, and I really like semaglutide a lot. Like it's one hormone. It works really well for most people. It's the least expensive. I do have some patients that can't tolerate the side effects, but they're very, very few and far between. And in which case we would switch to tirzepatide or retatrutide, something like that. And then I do have people that are adverse to GLPs. So other skinny injections, we use, again, the tesamorelin and KPV. That combination works really well. And it's not a GLP. It doesn't have, kind of the political backlash on it, if you will. And those things work really nicely for fat loss. Another one, even just lipotrophic C. So Lipo C has been great. It's been used for a long time. Those were the injections that people were getting before the semaglutide craze kind of came about, is just doing it's methionine, choline, inositol. It's just a combination of amino acids, right? And we just didn't call it a peptide. So they've been around for a long time.
I noticed some of these companies now are coming out with a oral. Are they as effective?
I haven't had as good a success with the oral, and people are always surprised and not happy that they're more expensive, right? So, you know,
Yes.
they'll be like, "Well, why is it more expensive than the injectable?" Because we associate pills with an expense, but you have to take it every day. So there's just the quantity wise, there's more. So it's much more expensive for me to procure. So it's more expensive for the patient. And yeah, it just, I think a lot of it gets destroyed in the gut and not utilized. GLP is a gut hormone. So, you would think it would survive, but whatever form it's in, I don't, the absorption's not that great. And the other problem is a lot of people, part of their weight problem is a gut problem to begin with. So they might have a leaky gut, inflamed gut, and they just they don't absorb well. So.
Well, I'm going to share. I know I've shared this with you before. I'm on Ozempic, and I want to share this with people out there. Um, it actually, I stopped losing weight from it. But, Katie, my lab work has never looked as good as it looks. And I mean, I've got kidney problems, and my doctor is amazed. And we know it's from the Ozempic. And I think there's health areas that these skinny injections are helping. And because they're still somewhat new, they don't know exactly. But all I know is I will never get off of it. I don't care if I lose weight from it or not. It's what it's done to my lab work is just amazing. Does
Yeah.
that surprise you?
No, yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of that. I mean, we've seen reversal with it. We've seen people come off their
Yes.
blood pressure medications or diabetes medications. And yeah, that it decreases inflammation, to some extent. You can certainly add KPV to that, to your regimen, if you were interested in taking peptides and even either the tesamorelin, which could reaccelerate fat loss, because you could be at the limits of what these semaglutide can do for you, and just adding a couple new things might re-stimulate something.
Right. Well, I'm totally. And I've had, just so people know, because when they write about your show, they go, "What about the side effects?" Once in a while, I'll have a little nauseous, but it goes
Hmm.
away.
Right.
I mean, and that's been it. I have had no side effects at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people don't. Like I said, maybe out of 100 people, I have one or two that just, they're so nauseous on it they can't take it, which is, it's fine. But it's a clue to something else. I'm like, oh, you got some serious gut issues that we need to
Yeah.
work on. So let's
I was
work on that
actually,
first.
I was actually surprised how fast went away. I mean, it lasted maybe 3 or 4 minutes and it was gone.
Right. Yeah.
So
No,
let me
it
go
can
on.
go pretty quickly.
Yeah, let me go on next year. RPA therapy. What is that?
So RPA is regenerative protein arrays, and it's basically what stem cells secrete. So they take a placenta, right, and they put it on a bioreactor, and the placenta creates these regenerative protein arrays. And that's why, like, if you had a baby and the baby got a cut for some reason, it would heal with no scar, right? So babies have that ability to not scar, and it has to do with the regenerative protein arrays. So what we do is we collect those. So it's the placenta excretes them. So there's no manipulation of stem cells or anything like that. But so you take that, and it's the best of what stem cells are doing, but without DNA, right? So always the theoretical concern with stem cells is the fact that you have somebody else's DNA that's being put in your body, and there's a possibility for rejection, which we really don't see, but it's still that possibility.
Right.
But so the stem cells, they have to be extracted from the placenta. So you have to manipulate the placenta to get the stem cells, and that manipulation is what causes the controversy of using stem cells. So RPA are excreted from the placenta, so you're not manipulating anything, and there's no DNA associated with them. But basically, like I said, it's what the stem cells are going to secrete anyway when you get them injected somewhere. So we take the RPA and we'll use that for, I'll inject it into hips, knees. I've injected it into cerebral spinal fluid for brain injury. We've injected IV. So, just the gamut of things. So you can use it for pain management. It's great for anti-inflammatory issues, any kind of like psoriasis, eczema. It's great for gut issues, and it's amazing for pain. So
This is amazing. Like this is not your grandmother, your mother's spa. This is what you're doing. It's just, I'm amazed. I'm looking at the list. What is shockwave therapy?
So shockwave therapy is acoustic sound wave therapy. I actually did one of those this morning, and it's really, really amazing. So it uses sound wave to stimulate the cells, right? So, if you've ever seen like Blast, you can see sound, right? And they have a video of, kind of exemplifying what shockwave does. And if you see kind of that the sound wave go forward, they use it with balloons. So the sound wave goes over the balloons, and the balloons kind of go over, and then they pop back up and jiggle a little bit. And that simulates kind of what's happening with the cells. So when you do that sound therapy to the cells, it jiggles them. It stimulates stem cells to come out and activate, to say, hey, what's going on here? It actually it brings blood flow to the area. It activates the stem cells, and it initially creates an inflammatory response, so that the body then kicks into that anti-inflammatory, like, oh, there's something we need to do here. And then pulling that blood flow into the area is pretty amazing too. And it's not painful at all. It's an unfocused sound wave, and it does create an intensity. So, when you get near to a spot, it feels more intense to the person. But it's like this weird intensity that, it's like, oh, that's really intense, but don't stop type of thing,
Right.
because
Yes.
it works really, really well, and really fast.
How
I've done
long
it
does
to
it
my.
last?
It can last for, when you're in acute pain. So I hurt my back, ironically, picking up the soft wave machine, which was kind of heavy. And I pulled my back, and I did a couple treatments, a couple days in a row, and then it just went away. And for
Wow.
my chronic pain patients, we'll typically start off doing it every 3 to 5 days for the first 2 or 3 sessions. Then we go to a week. And then pretty quickly, they really don't need it, or they'll come in once a month, or, once a quarter or something, or they just stop coming.
Katie, you just reminded me about something. Our number one requested topic, no matter what part of the country, this is 16 years for me, and I'm like shocked, but we're going to start making some changes on our show. Chronic pain is our number one requested topic. Does that surprise you?
No, I mean, actually, when people come in, and when I first got the soft wave machine, it was funny because I would say, oh, no, do you have pain? And everybody would laugh. And I'm like, why is that funny? And it's because everybody has pain. Everybody has some sort of pain, and you just learn to deal with it, or, you accept it, and you're just like, oh, there's nothing that can be done. And, it's always shoulders, hips, knees, like, something. Plantar fasciitis, another big one that we do. The neck pain. Yeah, it's everywhere. And there's no good answer to it, right? You can take Tylenol, you can take NSAIDs, you can put ice on it. But, Tylenol and NSAIDs, don't fix the problem. They just numb you from knowing that there's a problem. And,
right. Exactly.
And plus they have other like major side effects. So that's, it's fine. I'm not anti-Tylenol and NSAIDs. If you need them, take them, but it's not a long-term plan. It's not something that you should do for weeks on end. Like that's a terrible plan.
If you walk into a GNC, which I don't go into, and you say, I want to lose weight, they're going to show you about 40 different brands of pills, supplements that they say will make you lose weight. I've always kind of laughed at that because, first of all, everybody's body is different.
Mm-hmm.
And you just because maybe it's good for one doesn't mean it's good for another, but you actually do medical weight loss.
Right.
Tell me the different areas. We got a couple minutes. Tell me the different areas that you actually service for medical weight loss.
So for medical weight loss, we do have a lot of different therapies, again, because not everybody wants GLPs and not everybody qualifies. Yes. But, we look at that aspect of it. We look at the inflammatory, we look at gut health, and we just have a lot of different modalities to attack what the problem is. A lot of times we'll do labs. We don't always necessarily start with labs, but if somebody's not losing weight or they're pretty complicated to begin with, it helps to do labs first, because knowing what someone's amino acid status is, knowing what their vitamin and mineral status is, or just their inflammatory markers makes a huge difference in our ability to get results in a decent timeline, right? Like we never want people to lose weight too fast. Our goal is like 1 to 2 pounds a week.
Right.
Because otherwise you will come in for regenerative aesthetics, because there's nothing, it's not a better look to have a lot of excessive skin that's all crepey and wrinkly, right? It's so losing weight at a slow pace, especially when you're older and your skin doesn't bounce back as quickly, is really important.
Katie, how do people reach you to make an appointment?
Yeah, so we're at Philly Wellness Center. You can go to our website, phillywellnesscenter.com, or you can call or text us at 215-709-9710.
Katie, we so appreciate you. Katie will be back again with us next month. I've got so many more areas to go over with your practice, and we'll do it next month. Thank you so much, Katie, and have a wonderful Easter.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.